How's it going, everybody? Andrew Robinson here, back at it with another Max MSP tutorial. In this video, we are going to talk about an amazing object. That object is Coll, and Coll is amazing for data storage and editing purposes. And let me tell you, it has a lot of features when it comes to data storage and selection, and it could be kind of tricky to understand because it uses its own internal formatting that we're going to take a look at in a second, but it's honestly not that bad, and once you do get it, you will see the potential that this object has. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? First things first, we're going to open up the help file because the help file is very helpful. And if we look at the help file here, we're going to see this basic tab first, and we're going to see some examples of storing things and recalling things. This is at the very, very fundamental level, this is the thing you will use Coll for. You store data, any kind of data, lists, numbers, symbols, whatever you want. It gets stored into the Coll, and then you use this recall method to then output it. And there's a bunch of other features built into it if you need to like reorganize the data for certain reasons. You never know what you're gonna find you're gonna need Coll for. But let's just look at these examples. So the first one is storage, and we have these messages with a lot of stuff in it. It is a 1, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 4.001, and then some text in quotation marks. And the next one is 2, and then yeah, some more numbers, some more text, 3, some more numbers, and even more text, as it says. So the way it works is if you were to click this message box, this whole list is going to get sent out this patch cord. And then similarly, if we click these message boxes, they are going to be sent out their patch cord, and everything is now getting stored inside the Coll. If we double click the Coll object, it's going to open up this window, which is the text editor for the Coll object. And we can see now that these messages that we just clicked on were stored inside the Coll object. And the formatting, this is the formatting that I was talking about. You see it says 1, 123, 4.001, quotation mark, some text, semicolon. This is the formatting that the Coll object uses to understand how to recall what is stored. The first number, and it's the first number you see in this message box, is what line we're going to store the Coll in. So because this message says 1 first, in the first line of this text editor for the Coll object, we are storing 123, 4.001, some text. And if we were to send in a 1 into this message, that is then how we would recall it, because you're saying retrieve the data at index 1. Same thing for these message boxes. This one says 2, so at the second line, we are storing 567, 8.002, more text. And you see here it's 1, 2, 3, that is the integer, that is the identifiable thing with that line for the recalling purposes. And while we're here, just so you know, you don't have to store things by sending it message boxes. You could do things directly in this window if you wanted to. So if we wanted to store another thing here, we could do 4, hey there, semicolon. And now we click the exit button, and this little dialog box is going to open up. It's going to say validate changes to help Coll before closing. That means, do you want to save the changes? If you do want to save the changes you just edited by manually typing something in there, you're going to click validate, and that's going to save it in this Coll object as long as this window is open. If we double click it again, you see, yep, it was still saved there, so that's perfect. And now we can use this recall function. And you notice here, it is not patched into the Coll object. It could be, but it's not. And that's because Coll has this really cool feature where if you give it a name, as it is here, it says Coll, help Coll, and here it says help Coll as well. Because these have the same name, they're referencing that same bank of stored data. So they don't have to be patched into everything. You could have copies of this, one over here, and it's the same data. So if we then send this if we put a number in this number box, it's going to send it through this patch cord into the Coll object, and we're going to get that output. And it's whatever integer value we send in, it's going to pull back what was associated on that line at that index. So if we do 1, we're going to get this 1 back. Now it's connected out to a print object, so it's actually going to show up in our Max console. That's this button right here, and you can see it says print 123 4.001 some text. So it worked. Let's real quick also add a message box just so we can see it in the patch as well as in the console. If we do 2, we now have what was on the second line, which was also this message, and it worked. It's 567 8.002 more text, and we're seeing it in the console. And so, you know, if we do 3 now, we're going to get this guy because that was what was at the third line. There it is. And then we added a 4th line, and if we do that, there we go. We get it. Hey there. So that's how that works. And you can actually get really specific. You see we're storing all of this stuff, so it's like a list that we're storing at that index. You could use this nth message. It's NTH. And then you say what line you want, and then what element of that list, if it is a list, do you want. So this list here has 3 elements in it. The first element is 123, the second element is 4001, and the third element is some text. So by clicking the nth 1, 2, we're going to get the first line and the second element. So it should be this 4.001. And if I clicked it, there you go. It now returned the 4.001. So you could get even more specific with how you want to recall things. And that is very, very useful. And then lastly, if you want to just output everything that's stored, you would use the dump message. So if you click that, everything gets output. And you see in our message box, because it dumped everything, and it does it iteratively, so it's like line by line, the only thing that shows up in our message box is the last line, which was the hey there. But you can see in our console, it did output everything. And that's all showing up here. So don't let that confuse you. That is why I'm pointing it out. You might think it's not working because you can't see the first 3 lines. You're only seeing the last line. But it did actually output all those lines. And that's why sometimes it's very helpful to check things with the print object and see what pops up in your Max console, because you're going to get something more specific than just what may show up in the message box. That's just a useful hint for all of y'all who are new to this programming stuff. And then if you wanted to, you could like delete things or remove them with these messages. You could delete everything if you send it a clear message. It's, you know, whatever you want. Then there's this advanced storage. We're not going to talk about this. This is way above and beyond what we really need to do right now. You may find yourself needing this at some point, but like only really if you actually are doing really advanced data storage collection stuff. The main thing on this tab that is very important to talk about actually is this embed 1, embed 0 message down here. So embed 1 tells the Coll object to save whatever is stored within it. If you have a Coll object here and it doesn't have embed 1 and you just, you know, do whatever, this is going to be, you know, line 1, comma, that, semicolon, line 2, this, semicolon, line 3, and say, you know, you went all the way up to like 100 or something, and you, don't worry about that, I was just doing an example. Say you had up to 100 lines, you know, of like actual important data saved in here, and then you closed your Max patch and reopened it later, that data, it's not going to be there anymore. That's a problem. But if you have that embed 1 message sent to it, or, you know, you just at the start of creating your Coll attribute, set the argument embed 1, then whatever, all those 100 lines of data you have, whatever you put in here, if you save this patch, close out, reopen it later, it will be saved in there. So that is very important to know. And embed 1 is off by default. So embed is off by default. It's set to 0, meaning by default, it's not going to save your data. So if that is important and you need that data saved, you better make sure you have that embed 1 on. Let me tell you, it's very, very important for that reason. So that's that. That's the most important thing with the advanced storage. We can query things just like, you know, any other kind of way. We've seen this in other objects before. You know, you can do a bang to send out like a random or the next index. You can do next this way, step through it. You could go backwards, previous. You could jump to certain things. That's all fine. You may find you need this stuff depending, again, on the kind of data storage things you're doing, but the most important stuff really is going to be what we looked at in this basic tab. If you understand this, then all this stuff will come very easily to you too, I promise. It's just more specific ways of either storing or recalling that data. So now that we've taken a quick glance at that help file, let's get into building something cool with the Coll object. So we're not going to save that. We are going to just look back at our main patch here, and I have Coll at embed1. This is actually important because I'm going to want to store this data. And what we're going to do is like generate like a text poem thing. Calling it a poem is very loose, but that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go in here into the Coll object, which again, you just lock the patch, double click on it, and it opens up this window that allows us to manually type things in. And we're just going to follow the formatting of what we just looked at. So first things first, we're going to do 1, comma to store for the index 1, and we're just going to type something. Let's say hello. And then line 2 could be how are you? And then line 3 could be today is a great day. And then line 4 could be tomorrow will be great too. I don't know. 5, I love love. 6, I love you. 7, it's so cool to use Max MSP. Yeah, this is good. Okay, so let's just have these 7 lines for now, shall we? We're gonna close it out, and it's gonna say stop and fix the problem, and that's because I forgot a semicolon on line 2. So, like I said, following format is important. It's awesome that if you do mess something up, it lets you know that you messed something up. I didn't get an error message this time. It's just asking me if I want to save it. So we're going to click validate. All that's saved. And because the embed one is on, I could save this patch, close it, reopen it. That text is still going to be there, which is perfect. Now let's do some recall message. So we're going to get the recall data out of this left outlet, which is the data content. That makes a lot of sense. So if we just patch that into a message box real quick, and we create an integer box, which I made the message box by pressing M. I made the integer box by pressing I. Just hotkeys make everything way faster. We're going to patch that integer box into the Coll object, lock our patch, which I just did by holding down Command and clicking in the blank space. And now that our patch is locked down here, we can interact with it. So I'm going to type 1 into the number box, hit enter, and it says symbol hello. That is the first thing we store, but because it's just a singular word instead of a sentence, it's outputting it as a symbol rather than a list, and that's what that symbol here is letting us know, that this is just a symbol and nothing else. So that's cool. 2 is how are you? Perfect. 3 is today is a great day. 4 is tomorrow will be great too. 5, I love love, so on and so forth. Okay, so the first one, the only thing we had that is a single word was that first one, which is just a symbol. So we're going to use the route object, and we're going to say route symbol, which is going to route anything that has that symbol prefix out through this outlet, which says output if input matches symbol. So if it sees that symbol, then whatever comes after symbol is going to come out of this outlet. If it doesn't have symbol, it's going to come out of this outlet. And for this instance, it doesn't really matter too much if both of these come out into the same message box, because all we wanted to do was remove the symbol from the hello. So that just popped out of this one into this message box. 2 came out of this outlet, but into the same message box. So it's all fine. But we could see the sentences in this message box, and that's how that works. And now that we've done that, we have to now write this as text in a jitter window. So we're going to first create a jit.world, and then as I always do with jit.world, I'm going to give it these attributes at floating1, at fssa1, at fs menu bar 0, and these are just good attributes to start with so that if you ever went full screen, it's going to look nice and pretty and actually be the entire screen without anything else popping up in the way. Then we're going to attach a toggle into it, and we're going to lock the patch, click it, turn it on, and you saw the background just change color. So now we know we are rendering stuff, and whatever we send to a video plane is going to show up in this window. So let's go ahead and make that video plane, which we're going to do jit.gl.video plane at transform reset 2, so it reaches the edges of the window, and now we have a nice floating window plane in our world. Let's bring in the jit.lcd, because jit.lcd can process text, which is really cool, and we didn't talk about that so much in the jit.lcd tutorial that I did. I would highly recommend going and watching that real fast if you haven't already. But we're gonna go over the text now, so we get a clear look at that as well. And we're gonna patch the jit.lcd into our video plane. And as we talked about in that tutorial video, we need to first send a clear message to the jit.lcd to initialize it, so that whatever we send to it, it's ready to draw it. So we can do that using the load mess object, so that way when we open up this patch for the first time, it's going to automatically send that clear out into the LCD, and we're not going to have to do anything. But because we just created this and we didn't open it up, we do have to do something, so we can lock our patch, double click load mess, and that clear is going to come out this patch cord. This jit.lcd is now initialized for drawing. It just needs a bang to output its frames, and lucky for us, this middle outlet of the jit.world is a render draw bang. So it's going to send out a bang every time it updates the frame, which is the perfect way to have a bang go to the LCD, because then it's synced to the jit.world rate. Makes a lot of sense. So we're going to do a send render bang, and with send and receive objects, I like to color code it so I know where it's going to and where it's coming from. So I'm going to make this send render bang orange real fast. Then I'm just going to copy it, change this S to an R, and so now this bang is coming out this patch cord into this object, and this object is now going to receive that, even though it's not patched into anything. It's got the same name like we talked about with the Coll object. These are now linked, and that bang is going to come out of the receive into the jit.lcd through this patch cord, and we see it's working because it now just output this blank white frame. So now we are ready to draw things. Now let's open up the jit.lcd help file real fast and look at the text tab for it. And as we can see, we have this message here, which is how you go ahead and you write things. We're going to turn this example one on, click this message real fast, and it typed hello baby over here. So the first thing we have to do is look at this, which is the first half of this message. It is moved to 40, 120. So we went over 40 in the X, down 120 in the Y, and our pen is right there. So that way, when we sent this write hello baby message, it wrote hello baby at that spot right there. So pretty simple. It's just we have to do that in the correct order. We have to tell the pen of the jit.lcd to move to a specific location first, and then once at that location, it's going to write the text with that write message. So pretty easy. We just got to remember, do it in that order. So we're going to, rather than use message boxes, we're going to use the prepend object, which is just going to stick the move to as a message in front of whatever we patch into this prepend object. And we need an X and Y location to move to. So that's going to be a list of 2 integers. So we're going to do pack II, so we have a list. And then we're just going to do some random integers, and our LCD is 640 by 480, so I'm going to do random 640, random 480, which will be fine. It's possible that the text may get drawn off the side of the window this way, but that's not a big deal for this example, really. So we're just going to leave it like that and not get too weedy in the math, and we're just going to connect this prepend move to object into the jit.lcd. So that's perfect, because now we're going to send, we're going to give it an X and Y location there, and then we're going to also randomly pull out one of our sentences to write. And because we start at index 1, we're going to add a 1 to this random object because it's between 0 and 6. That's 7 random integers. 0 is our integer value in coding. It's not just nothing. So if we just add 1, then we're going to get 1 through 7, which is what we need for the Coll. And then again, this random also is just going to need a bang to output. So now we got to do things in the correct order, which we're going to use our trigger object to make sure that happens. And we're going to first pick a random Y location, then we're going to pick a random X location. When that happens, because this is the hot inlet, this list is going to then output into the LCD, so it's going to move to that location, and then it will be ready to write a random sentence that we have entered. Just rather than doing it in a message box, we're going to need the prepend object, and we're going to put the right message in it, and then these two patch cords we're going to drag over to the prepend object, and we're just going to get rid of that message box. We don't need it anymore. Prepend is then going to be in the LCD, and now when this receives a bang, which we can do from this button, which I just created by pressing B, everything's going to happen. And there it is. Up in this corner, it just wrote, "I love you." And then down in this corner, it wrote, "How are you?" And every time I click the button, yeah, we're just going to get another random sentence at a random location in that window, which is pretty sweet. And we could just, automate everything. We could create a metro object. I don't know what a good speed would be. Let's start with 200. We'll patch that in there. Give this its own toggle. Lock the patch. Click it. Turn it on. And now every 200 milliseconds, we're getting another sentence. So that seems a little faster. I'm going to slow it down for a sec. Let's do every 2 seconds. I'm going to double click this load mess clear object so it clears it. We could start over. How are you? Today is a great day. This feels a little slow. Let's do every 1 second. There we go. That's a little bit better. And there you go. We could stop the lesson right here. That is the Coll object. We're using it to store some data and to output this data. And we're doing this cool text poem thing, visual art, text poem piece, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, it's pretty fun. But I real fast want to just show it doesn't have to stop here because we're using the jit.lcd, and we learned a lot about jit.lcd, including how we can use some feedback effects with it. I just want to show that you could even do that right here, right now. If we just added jit.rota in here and we, we say zoom X 1.1, zoom Y 1.1, theta, that, and bound mode 4, and patch the output of the LCD into that and the jit.rota back into it. We know this works with the jit.lcd, and now it's doing a little effect. It might be a little too much. Let's not have it zoom so much. Boop. There you go. Okay, there's some text. Now it's drawing a little too slow. Let's speed this up. Let's do 100. There you go. Wow, look at that. That's pretty cool. It's doing everything from the top left corner because I didn't set the anchor points. Let's have the anchor points be wherever it draws the word. So we'll have an anchor X and an anchor Y, and it can be the same as these random values right here, which could be pretty interesting. Yeah, that's really cool suddenly. And there you go. Not only did we write a cool text poem, but now we're making it pretty janky, which is fun. I always love doing that. It's visually pretty interesting and conceptually kind of interesting, and that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you learned something cool about the Coll object. I hope it makes a little bit more sense to you and you could see the practical applications of how you could use it in your own Max MSP projects. If you did learn something and if you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe because that's how I know that you found it helpful, and I really always appreciate that. And on that note, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.